Hello everyone, this is Professor Maloney, and today I'm creating a for loop demonstration example for you. And I'm doing my challenge a little differently this time. I hope you're going to like it, and I believe most of you will. So what is going to be different? Well, first of all, I'm going to give you the complete code, as I always do in the demonstration videos, okay? And I'm going to include 3 challenges. And here is the potential biscuit. Biscuit meaning something good for you. If you do the code that I give you and the 3 challenge activities, and you get it to run, I'm providing a test deck for the original, meaning like what I'm going to describe and demonstrate in this video. But then I'm giving you another test deck when you add 3 more things to it. And if you run it and your test deck runs it successfully, I'm going to have you upload that file to prog or programming exercise, if you will, 5-7 at MindTap. You know 5-7 is not a graded assignment. It's only 5-1 through 5-6. But if you upload it there and then you send me an email, I will then verify that within a couple days of you putting it there and you telling me that it's there. And then in your email, I'll let you tell me which of programming exercises 5-1 through 5-6 you want to get full credit, meaning 100 points for, in exchange for you getting that program to work. So if you say, hey, professor, please give me 100 points for programming exercise 5-1. I completed, the exercise that you assigned to us, and I put it in the MindTap programming exercise 5-7 link, and I would like to get credit for 5-1. And then someone else does it, and they say, I'd like to get credit for whatever, 5-2, and someone else 5-4, because everyone's it's going to be determined based on what you feel is the most difficult, obviously, of those exercises. So I hope you like this activity and this generosity of me. And so I'm going to go ahead and start showing you what I've got. All right. So I shall share my screen as always. And now, once I do, I'm going to get rid of that thing there. So I've already pulled up my assignment, what I'm giving you. So let me first move this thing over. Okay, all the way over there so you can see it all. All right, now you're going to be taking some pictures of this, but you don't need to do it right. This is like too wide. I just want you to focus on what I'm telling you, and then I'll make this less wide and ask you to take pictures. But basically, so this is a chapter 5 for loop example, 3 student challenge activities underneath the program code. They're down here. Okay. This program keeps track of different gas fill-ups based on a for loop and user input. You must keep track of how many miles was driven for each fill-up, how many gallons were used for each fill-up, and then you just simply calculate the miles per gallon for each fill-up. Very, very simple calculation, but all being done with just a minimal number of variables based on using a for loop for it, okay? So this test deck right here is for the part that I'm going to be demonstrating right now. All right. So I'll finish reading it all first. So you must keep track of that, the miles driven for, let's say, fill-up 1. And then I'm going to ask you to make it for 3 fill-ups. So there'll be fill-up 1, 2, and 3 in your for loop. So how many gallons for each, how many miles you drove for each. And we're going to just make the assumption that the car was totally filled up when you started this exercise, okay? And because it was totally filled up, if you put in the numbers I'm putting down here, so I'm saying we're assuming you start with a full tank. If you entered 3 fill-ups with these kind of numbers, okay? So let's see, let me stop it at, all right. So that would be what you're going to be entering in terms of numbers. So fill-up number 1, you're going to say you went 300 miles. And you're going to say it took 15 gallons. Second fill-up, you're going to say 325 miles and 16 gallons. And the third fill-up was for 350 miles and 18 gallons. Let's make this miles. Then your miles per gallon for fill up 1 would have been 20, and your miles per gallon for fill up 2 would have been 20.3125, and your miles per gallon for fill up 3 would have been 19.4444. Okay? All right. So that is the excitement. All right, that's the excitement. So test deck number 1 is this stuff, and this does not account for any challenge activities. So let me now show you the code. I'm going to now make this a little bit wider again, so that what I want you to take a picture off and just be, the main.cpp, meaning the center part of the screen. You don't need anything over here, although maybe I can move that over a little bit more. I just want to make sure, though, that you get the whole screen where you can focus just on this part, okay? And not worry about the console. You just want the CPP file in the center. You don't need the menu on the left side, and you don't need the console on the right side. All right. So you know the instructions, okay? So let's now have you take a picture from line 1 down to line 16, okay? I shall wait 20 seconds for you to do that. All right, 20 seconds for that. All right. So now I'll go down to line 17. Just to here. Okay, so that's actually all we need. All right, so now line 17 down to the end. So let's say line 28. But now, again, this is without the challenge. Okay, so basically, this is just the loop part. And I will talk about this loop part for several minutes as part of my overview of doing test deck 1, which is the test deck up top. All right, so 10 more seconds for this picture. All right. So now you should have that. So I'll just read those 3 student challenge activities and then go back to the top. So these are the ones that you would then get credit for an entire programming exercise, either 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, 5.4, 5.5, or 5.6, depending, whichever one you want, as long as you get this to work and your test deck gives what I'm going to read. So challenge 1, output the format for miles per gallon and number of gallons entered with 2 decimal places. You see over here, 20.3125. You see over here, 19.4444. You see over here, let's see, this is for number of gallons, possibly a number of gallons. 18, that should be 18.00. 16, 16.00. Okay, so that would just be the easy part. And obviously, you know that you've been working with your set width stuff, set precision stuff for a while now. So you know what to do to get that to do this output for us. Nice and simple. But the second part of challenge 1, I'm not calling it a 4th challenge, it's still challenge 1. Also add a total cost calculation for each fill up. Okay. So you're going to also add a total cost calculation for each fill up. Then I'll come back to challenge 2. So let me first show you what's in here in the program. So you're saying how many gas fill ups do you want to enter? Okay. Just will give you like an overview. Then I'll come up and read all the other stuff because you'll know everything based on just reading this. So how many gas fill ups? I'm telling you to enter 3. You're going to assign that to num fill ups. Okay. Num fill ups 3. So then, starting at fill up num equals 1, up to the number of fill ups, anything less than equal to the number of fill ups, which I'm calling num fill ups, okay? Take fill up num, which starts at 1. So first it's going to be less than equal to 3. Over here, we're incrementing it to 2. It goes through the loop though first, then it comes back as 2. 2 is less than equal 3. Adds another one, 3. Comes back over here though. Then goes back to the top, and 3 is still less than equal 3, so you get the third one in. Then it's 4, and it won't work anymore. So, in other words, you're going to enter the number of miles you drove for fill up, and then you put fill up num. which initially is going to be 1. Okay, so enter the number of miles you drove for fill up 1. Look up here on the test deck, fill up 1. You're going to put 300 miles for how far you drove and 15 gallons after it. So how many gas fill-ups? 3. Enter the number of miles you drove for fill up 1, 300. Okay, that you will enter, and you're going to assign that to miles driven. Then the program, because remember this is in the loop, so everything happens one at a time. So this is done, 300. Then it's going to ask you how many number of gallons you entered. So here, number of gallons for that, you're going to say 15. Okay, then your miles per gallon for this trip was very simple. Miles driven divided by number of gallons. Okay, because it's a loop, I can do it very easily without having another variable, because all I have to do is make sure I capture the information. So I've got miles driven and I've got number of gallons. So then you just divide them and I have the answer for the miles per gallon. It was 20. Okay, then it comes up and it does the second fill up. So for the second fill up, enter the number of miles. So for the second one, it's 325 and 16. So that's this part of it. So then enter the number of miles you drove for fill up 2, 325. Enter the number of gallons, 16. Does the division again. 325 divided by 16 is 20.3125. Comes up again. We're down here now, but comes up again. And now it's fill up number 3. So for fill up number 3, the third fill up, 350 miles and 18. So this one here is 350, okay, and 18 for the miles, for the number of gallons right here. Then the division on that is 19.4444. So that's all you have to do. Now, remember, challenge 1, what do you have to do? You have to add the gas price. So what do you need? So you got how many fill-ups? The user provides the answer. Then in the for loop, you ask how many to enter the number of miles. You say the user's giving you that. So you're the user though. So you put in your number of miles based on my test case. Then enter the number of gallons for this fill-up. Then enter your miles per gallon. I mean, your miles per gallon is, and it does the calculation. Now you're going to need another COOT statement and another C input statement to ask for the price per gallon, and then to give the answer for the price per gallon times. So what did the challenge say again? Go to challenge 1. So challenge 1, output the format as we talked about with set precision, right? So fix, show point, set precision, and do your 2. And then add a total cost for each fill up. So when you're coming up here now and you're asking another question within the loop, enter the price per gallon, then you already have the number of gallons. So you're then going to have another one. Your cost for this fill up was, and it's just number of gallons times price per gallon, right? So that's that part. So challenge 1, nice and simple. Okay, nice and simple. So let's see, down here for the challenge. Okay, challenge 2, add if logic. If logic. So that was from chapter 4. This is chapter 5. Add if logic to give a 5% discount on the total cost calculation, showing net cost after applying the 5% discount. In other words, so now once you put in the total cost for the fill up, let's just pretend that you put $3 for the price per gallon, like an even number 3, okay? So an even number 3. So when you go in and do these calculations, when you had added 18 gallons right here, number of gallons was 18. Well, anyone knows 18 times 3 is 54, right? If you don't, you put it in the calculator and you figure it out. So that's 54. That's over 50, okay? So the if logic here would be, when you do your calculation, it would be 54. But I'm not even asking you to give me that total. I'm just saying you add an automatic 5% discount if the price is more than 50. So with your if statement, you obviously have something if it's true, something if it's not true. So for each thing it goes through the if, it's going to first just check, is it greater than 50? If it's greater than 50, the true part, meaning it's true now, you would multiply the number of gallons times the number of price, whatever variable you're using for, the total cost, okay? And I may or may not have told you down below, I don't think I did. And then multiply that times 0.95 to give a 5% discount, okay? So that thing, nice and simple, right? Nice and simple. If it's false, meaning the price was less than 50. So instead of on, let's say the one where it's 15, like up here, 15 gallons, the first one, 15 gallons. If it's the same thing, $3 per gallon, 15 times 3 is 45. So that one would be false. So on false, you just do the regular calculation. It's only on true that you would apply the discount, meaning times it by 0.95 instead of the discount, all right? Okay, so that's number 2. Then number 3, keep a running total of miles driven and gallons used to come up with an average miles per gallon for all the trips. So in other words, same thing here, challenge 3. So enter the number of miles you drove for fill up 1, right? So now you need a variable to assign that total, because what we're doing here is we're assigning miles driven to every fill up. Remember, for the first iteration, meaning fill up 1. So fill up number 1, you're entering the miles you drove. Fill up number 1, you're entering the number of gallons. Fill up number 1 does the calculation to get you miles driven, divide by number of gallons, which comes out to miles per gallon. Okay, but then it goes to trip number 2, fill up number 2. And fill up number 2 then overrides fill up number 1. So miles driven now is fill up number 2, not number 1. So obviously you need to capture miles driven. You need to capture number of gallons after each thing in the loop. So in this loop, you have to obviously figure out where you're going to put, and it's pretty simple, each miles driven. So instead of just miles driven, maybe have a variable total miles driven, okay? Have a total number of gallons. And you just obviously keep putting these variables, the miles driven and the number of gallons, into total miles driven and total number of gallons, okay? So that would then be number 3 initially. So then what you're going to then do with that, so you're keeping a running total of miles driven and gallons used to come up with an average miles per gallon for all the trips. For that one, you're going to state it as you have driven a total off. And just like all our other COOT statements where you put a variable in there, it's going to be the total for total miles driven, right? And then, and gallons used to come up, so you have driven a total off, total miles driven during these fill-ups, whatever num fill-ups is, num fill-ups, right? Num fill-ups. And your average miles per gallon was, so that means again from your, taking your total miles, divide by your total gallons, all right? So pretty simple, pretty simple. And then let's look at the end. If you complete the challenge activity, you get a 100 on your choice of programming exercises, any one between 5-1 to 5-6, okay? You're going to put your code in programming exercise, oh, I said 2-7, thank you. 5-7 at MindTap if you finish it, and then send me an email telling me which programming exercise you want to replace it with. But you must verify that your answer comes up with the test deck, okay? So this is, where's my test deck? Test deck 1, where's my test deck 2? Uh-oh. I need to get a test deck 2. Wow. I'm going to have to unshare for a minute so I can get my copy. Where the heck? I thought I put a test deck 2. Let me just see if I can unshare for a quick minute. I don't want to mess up my program. Will that mess anything up? Let's see. Now I'm just going to unshare for a minute. So let's see, unshare for a minute. I'm still recording myself, right? Yes, I am. Okay, so. Okay, I'm going to now start sharing again. Share, share, share. Hide. Okay. Okay, so back over here, and here is challenge the test deck. Okay. Okay, so here is test deck 2. So now I got to have you redo the picture. Test deck number 2. If you entered 3 fill-ups, where the first one was for 600 miles and 21.56 gallons at 2.799 price per gallon, and the second fill-up was for 500 miles and 18.85 gallons at 2.879 price per gallon, and the third fill-up was for 400 miles and 15.25 gallons at 2.919 price per gallon, your individual costs would have been 57.33 for fill-up 1 after the 5% discount for being over 50. So in other words, I'm not making you say it was really 62 or 63 whatever, and then after the discount, I'm just telling you to take the whatever it was, 60 whatever dollars, then you're multiplying it times 95% to come up with the discount price, okay? The second one, 51.56 for fill-up 2. That was based on, first one was that and that. Second one was 500 miles, 18.85 gallons at 2.879, okay? So all you're doing is everything is in your for loop. You just need to capture everything, and then you put your answers to the questions where they should be, all right? All right, I hope that makes sense. Now though, I'm still not done. Well, first I want you now to redo these pictures. So just in case, I think I said down to 17 was for the first one, right? Let's see. Now down to 16. So if you haven't done your first picture, you can redo it. So it's from lines 1 through 16. Okay, I'm going to assume most of you got that, so you probably don't need any time to do it. All right, so 1 through 16, I'll count down from 10. So 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, done. All right, now 17, but now this time on 17, I have more. Oh, shoot, it won't even fit. Oh, darn it. Just for that, I need to, let's see, enter number of miles you drove for fill-up. Enter. I'm going to put this return 0 here. I don't know how much more. Let me see how much more I need. No, I need quite a bit. Dang. Let's see, which one you want to use. Let's say replacement. And I'll say prog xer. Prog xer. Okay. Which prog xer? Okay, there. So now that's a little higher. So now I said it's line 17. Let's see if 17 goes and does it now. 51, so that's fill up 1. No, I still, oh no, I need a lot more. No, it's gonna, I guess, have to take you 3 pages. Sorry. All right, so I'm gonna go back to 17. Okay, so 17, and you can get down to that part of line 28. All right, so take 10 seconds to take a picture of that. Let me get the cursor away from there. Okay, let me get the cursor away from there. Actually, no. Sorry about that. Up here. There we go. Okay. So 10 seconds. Excuse me. Okay. Okay. Now remember, up here, you're not seeing the, I'm not putting the Coot statements for those, obviously, because that's, you'll then see the formulas. This is what you originally had to do, your miles per gallon for this. You're then going to have another one for the cost, remember? Okay. And in the Coot statement for the cost, it's going to say whatever I told you to do down here. But basically, it's going to more or less say the cost for this fill up was, and then pull up the cost, right? Which is going to be number of gallons times price per gallon. And then you just follow everything else. Anyway, so that's down through for fill up 1 on line 28. For fill up 1 on line 28. For fill up 1 Oh, you don't need my code. Okay, so for fill up 1, 928, I think I'm saying it. I don't know if I went through here or not. I'll just leave it like that anyway. So just take a picture of that, and now you have all of it. All right. So take that, and you see that my test deck there gives you the examples that I want you to use. If you get the right answers, then obviously it works, and then you can upload it to programming exercise 5-7 in MindTap, and then send me an email. Okay. All right. So that is that. Now, let's go ahead and actually talk about the actual code now for the top part. Okay, so what we're doing, let's look at what we're doing and then put our variables for it so you understand what we're doing. So don't worry about the 3 shooting challenges because you have the instructions for that down below. This program keeps track of different gas fill-ups based on a for loop, okay? So here's our for loop, right down here, line 17, all right? So for fill up num equals 1, fill up num less than equal num fill ups, and then fill up num plus plus. In other words, fill up num means fill up number. Obviously, it's going to start at 1. After we finish fill up 1, it's going to go to fill up number 2. After we go to fill up number 2, it's going to go to fill up number 3. It'll go as long as it's less than equal to num fill ups. The num fill ups is what the user tells us, but you're going to put it in as the number 3. After you're done, you can put it in as 10 or 20 if you want to. You can keep it for this whole year and use it for your car and figure out your average miles per gallon for literally your life if you want. The program will do it. That's your loop, all right? So num fill-ups is going to be down here where we say enter the number. Let's see. How many gas fill-ups do you want to enter for these calculations? That's where we're putting in the num fill-ups. This is done before the loop, obviously, because if this is in the loop, it's going to happen every time. So, and you notice there's a lot of comments, right? But the COOT and the C input here in lines 13 and 14 are really what would amount to being lines 15 and 16 if I didn't have all these comments, okay? So anyway, num fill-ups is what we're getting from the user for the number of fill-ups, okay? Then what do we need? Well, go back up here. So we want to, based on a for loop and user input. So the user is going to tell us how many fill-ups they're going to do. We're assigning it to the value num fill-ups, okay? The next variable is fill up num. This fill up number is just used in the for loop for which fill up we're on, okay? So fill up number in for loop, maybe say to show us which fill up we're on. Okay. All right, number gallons. Obviously, number of gallons entered in the car at fill up. It is a double. So you don't need to put in numbers like I did 16, 15, and 18. I just did that to make it easy for you to just follow along with my input. But they are doubles. Doubles, okay? And miles driven, you might say, why is miles driven double? Because technically, you know, if you're on your trip meter anyway, not always on odometers, but trip meters always have a tenth as well, like 1 decimal place. So I can use a double for that, okay? If you want to get the most accurate count, if you drove 216.4 miles, input it as 216.4. You know, the test was just based on what I'm doing, but in terms of the program, it'll work. So, and that's all we need, all right? We have num fill-ups, fill up num, number gallons, and miles driven. That's it to make this loop work, okay? So, how many gas fill-ups do you want? Num fill-ups, okay, check that one off, it's used, right? Now we're using a for loop. You know, a for loop has 3 things. Remember going back to my overview in chapter 5, okay? There's 3 requirements for a for loop. And they're separated. The first 2 are separated by a semicolon. So it's for, okay? And here is the start, what we're starting with. We're starting with fill up num equals 1. That's what we're starting with, okay? So there's a semicolon. Then the next one is, what is the condition? What are we trying to get it to do? Well, we're going to do it, run the for loop up until the fill up num is equal to num fill-ups. In other words, we won't let it go beyond that. So less than it'll work, less than equal it'll work, okay? And then the next one is the counter, what we're doing with it. Well, we're adding 1. The plus plus means add 1 to the counter, and we're calling fill up num the counter. So you might say, that's why fill up num is used so much. Yeah. So fill up num equals 1. Fill up num is still or is less than equal to num fill ups. And then we increment the counter. That right when it's done once, you go through the counter. Remember, there's a opening curly, closing curly is always for the same thing. So everything in here in between lines 19 and 23 is just what you're doing for your counter. If you ran that, if you actually said num fill-ups is 100, you literally could go through here 100 times. You would have 100 different fill-up numbers. You would have 100 different miles driven, 100 different number gallons, and 100 different results. Miles driven slash, forward slash means divide by number gallons. So with just those few variables, you could have this thing go forever. Okay? Just go forever. So it's very easy. But just make sure you remember, just like with an if, and I talked about it, even if you're doing an if or a switch, for each case, you should have a separate opening, closing curly. For every if and else, a separate opening and closing curly. For every switch, an opening and closing curly. For every while, an opening, closing curly. And here, a for, an opening, and a closing curly. Everything within them are being done while the loop is true. Okay? So that's what that thing there is doing. Now, let's go ahead and run it, and then I'll put these back in, but now just reading it once by one. So you see, how many gas fill-ups do you want to enter for these calculations? So that's right here, right? I said we're going to do 3. So 3. Okay. Then we're in the loop now. Fill up num equals 1. Okay, so fill up num is 1. That's where the loop is starting. Fill up num, is that less than equal num fill ups? Yeah, it is, because num fill ups we assign to the C input based on this. And I typed in the number 3 right up here in the right side of the console over here on the right where it says 3 after to enter for these calculations. Okay, so 1, 3, and 1 is less than or equal to 3, so it's true. Then we increment to go to 2, okay? But this thing here is still done for 1. All these things are related to 1. So enter the number of miles you drove. 4, fill up 1, right? It's got a space here. Fill up num is the variable. Fill up num is assigned right here. So we know it's 1, so it'll say 1. And we're assigning that answer, the answer for number of miles, to miles driven, okay? Miles driven, we have to type in based on here, up here. So, and I'm going to go slow, even though it's now taken a little bit of time. So I put in 3, and now I'm just putting in the number of miles for the first test case, right? So enter the first one was for 300 miles and 15 gallons. So 300 for here, okay? Enter the number of gallons, 15. I did all these things to make it nice and easy so everyone can see the numbers relatively easy, right? So that's 15. Right when I enter that one, see, I've got now number miles, and I've got here number gallons. So number miles, number gallons, and then what? So how many fill-ups do you want to enter? We did. Enter the number of miles we did. We said 300. Number of gallons we did. We said 15. And then here it's not taking a C input. It's just a simple calculation based on taking miles driven and dividing it by number of gallons. So it's taking 300, okay, 300 here, and dividing it by 15 from here, okay? So 300 divided by 15 was 20. 20 times 10 is 200. 20 times 5 is 100. 200 plus 100 is 300. So the answer is 20. All right, simple. Now, enter the number of miles you drove for fill up 2. Okay, so number 1 passed. Okay, where's my, all right, number 1 passed. It was for 20, right? Well, the answer for it says here. Fill up 1 would have been 20, and there it is 20. So now run number 2. So second fill up was for 325 miles and 16. So 325, okay, and 16. Once I enter 16, remember I'm in my for loop. So I entered 325, that's now miles driven. I'm entering 16, that's now number of gallons. Right when I enter that one, the rest is just a simple COOT statement because it's not capturing anything. It's dividing miles driven by number of gallons. So it's dividing 325 by 16. Enter. Boom, there it is. 20.3125. Say the same thing. Pretend it was, let's say it was, so 325 and 16. All right. If you have it set up where it's 20 times 15, you know you're 300. And it's a little bit more than that, even though it's a little bit more on the gallons used as well. But it's slightly better than 20 is what it amounts to. You can put it in a calculator, but this is the answer, 20.3125. And remember, with the student challenge, you got to turn this to 20.31. And this one you got to put to 20.00, okay? This you got to put to 325.00. I'm not you put, but I mean, you have to do the formatting. Remember, that was part of challenge 1. Okay, so that was that one. And it was accurate again. Just look at your test case. So first one we said was 20. This one is 20.3125. 20.3125. Okay, now we're doing number 3. Number 3 is, third was 350 and 18. So here, for number of miles, 350. Number of gallons, 18. Enter again, and that division is 19.4444. It says up here, number 3 will be 19.4444. When you do challenge 1, you're going to change it to 19.44 from your formatting with the set, precision after your fixed and show point. All right. Okay. So that is that. Then the others go right in with it. Go right in with it. All righty. All right. Have a great day, everyone. You know what? I want to tell you one more little thing. One more little thing here. And this will be a benefit to those of you that pay attention. So when you're looking at the programming exercises in chapter 5, I looked at a few of them just to see where they are in the chapter. Okay, because I know that you guys at this point you're getting a little confused. I mean, some of you more so than others. But programming exercise 1, if you're on, if you go to look on page 312 to 313, you'll get some help as to what that is doing. All right, so 312, 313. Programming exercise 2 is a simple, well, it's a program, and you have to just, they're telling you like all the code is there. They say there's one little bug in the program, and they want you to just rearrange the program statements so that it works. I did this, and really there's not any bug at all, okay? Other than just moving things around, okay? And the pound include is right, using namespace is right, int main is right, the opening curly on int main is right, the double pi, the long I and the long N, they're all right. So the first thing you have to make a change on is after that, okay? And then you're gonna have to make a little bit of a change, but a very common sense change, okay? Then after that, you're gonna have to make a little change where you see the if and else, because the if and else doesn't work there. It needs to be within the for. So just go in there and look in there. And then where it's got a pi equals 0, that's got to be moved ahead up to 4, meaning before the 4. And the pi equals 4 times pi, that's got to be after the closing curly for the 4. So the 4 is just going to have the if else, okay? And then after that, oh, I do see a bug. Just in that, so after all that, just before the return, there's coot, less than, end L, less than pi equals, and then pi, and then less than end L. You don't need that first end L. Now, why am I even telling you any of this? But, just go through it and you'll see it, but so nice and simple, okay? Number 3, the program telephone digits. They're wanting you to do something, but they're talking about a program in the chapter called telephone digits. That's on pages 280 to 283. 280 to 283. You're just changing it so that it works now in lowercase numbers in addition, lowercase letters in addition to uppercase. Okay, so that's pretty easy. Number 4, I didn't find number 4, but I only looked for 10 minutes. I already found all these other things. Number 5 was also 312. Well, this one I put 311 to 313. Okay, so number 5, 311 to 313. Okay, and then number 6, prime numbers. I didn't find it yet, but if you Google prime numbers, it's pretty easy. The only even number that's a prime number is 2. The only even number that's prime is 2. Okay, and prime numbers have to be greater than or equal to 2. So 1 is not a prime. 2 is a prime. And then every other prime are odd numbers, but not every odd number. It can't be an odd number that's divisible by anything other than itself and 1. So in other words, 9 is not a prime because 9 can divide by itself, yes. 9 can divide by 1, yes. But 9 can also divide by 3 and get an answer of 3. Okay, so prime numbers are only divisible by, odd prime numbers only divisible by themselves and 1. If it's divisible by any other number, it's not good. And you can also Google prime numbers and you'll see the list, right? But basically number 2 and then 3, 5, 7, not 9, 11, 13, not 15, because 15 is divisible by 3 and divisible by 5 in addition to itself and 1. Okay, not 17, not 19, but 21 is not a prime, because when I say not, that means they're prime. So in other words, what's prime? 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, 19, 21 is not, 23 is not, 23 is, meaning it is prime because it's only divisible by itself and 1. 25 is not because it's divisible by 5, okay, in addition to itself and 1. 27 is not, it's divisible by 9 and 3 and whatever else, so it's not. 29 is prime. 31 is prime. 33 is not because it's divisible by 11. 35 is not, it's divisible by 5, 7, and whatever else. So, I mean, you get the hint from that, okay? Anyway, you can look at that. But so anyway, have a great day. I shall see you tomorrow. Well, tomorrow when we see you, yeah. All right, have a great day. Let me come over here and shut the program, my recording off.